This copper basin can duplicate items indefinitely. A man accidentally drops a water bottle into a copper basin. The next second, 100 identical bottles appear in the basin. Shocked, the man figures the basin must have magical powers to duplicate anything. He spends all his savings on a gold bar. When he places it in the basin and makes a wish, many gold bars appear. But then he notices something strange. All the gold bars had the exact same number carved on them. He almost panicked. If anyone saw that, they would know something was wrong. But Lee Jun-ho was not an ordinary man. He was a regressor. He had already lived through one life before, 30 long years of failure, betrayal, and pain. Now, after waking up in his younger body, he had two things he didn't have before: his memories of the future and this strange copper basin. In his last life, he died during the great cold wave that froze half the country. He still remembered how people begged for food, how neighbors fought each other for scraps, how entire families froze to death in their homes. This time, he would not die. This time, he would be ready. That night, he melted the gold bars into rough lumps, so nobody could see the repeating numbers. The eye. Next morning, he sold them to a jewelry shop. The shopkeeper tested them, then finally nodded. Pure gold. Money stacked high in his hands. Just like that, Jun-ho became rich. But he didn't waste money on cars, houses, or parties. He rushed to the market and bought food, water, warm clothes, medicine, heaters, and fuel. Day after day, he carried them back to his small apartment. Neighbors whispered, confused at how the poor factory worker suddenly had more supplies than anyone else. Late at night, he tried putting the items into the basin. That's when he discovered an even greater secret. The basin wasn't just copying, it was also storing. No matter how much he put in, the inside never filled up. It was like a bottomless hole, a world that could hold everything. He used it again and again. One blanket turned into a mountain of blankets. One box of ramen became a tower of noodles. He kept stacking until the entire building could have been fed for months, and then the cold wave finally arrived. Snow slammed against the city. The streets turned white in minutes. People collapsed outside, their bodies freezing solid where they stood. Cars stopped running. Power grid died, one block at a time. Inside, Jun-ho sat safe. His heater hummed. Hot steam rose from his bowl of noodles. He had mountains of food and water, enough to survive for years. But the world outside was collapsing. Neighbors screamed and pounded on doors. A burly man tried to smash through Jun-ho's window, but failed. A woman cried at his door, begging for bread. Jun-ho clenched his teeth and threw a bag of expired bread into the trash outside. The crowd pounced. Fighting like wild animals, he turned away, but his heart kept pounding. In his last life, he had been one of them. This time, he swore, things would be different. Then, someone knocked on his door. Not desperate, not weak, a slow, steady knock. Yeez. Jun-ho, a calm voice said. I know about the basin. Hand it over. Jun-ho froze. His secret was no longer safe. The knocking continued. Slow. Steady. Not like a beggar. Not like a starving neighbor. Lee Jun-ho, the voice repeated. I know what you're hiding. Open the door. Jun-ho's hands clenched. In his last life, he had trusted the wrong people and lost everything. Not this time. He stayed silent. Outside, footsteps shifted. Someone else was breathing in the hall. At least 2 men. Maybe 3. They knew his name. They knew about the basin. Jun-ho's mind raced. He had to act first. He reached into the copper basin and pulled out a small pistol. Not real, but an air gun he had tested before. The basin had given him dozens. Enough to scare anyone. He stood by the door and shouted, Leave now! If you come closer, I'll shoot. For a moment, Silence. Then the calm voice laughed. "Shoot if you want, but you'll run out of food someday, and when you do, you'll come begging to me." The footsteps moved away. The hall went quiet again. Jun-ho didn't relax. He knew what this meant. Someone had already noticed his strange fortune. Someone wanted to take it. The next morning, the storm was worse. People collapsed in the snow like broken dolls. Families screamed for help. The government sent no rescue. The city was turning into an ice graveyard. From his window, Jun-ho saw a group of men dragging doors off their hinges to burn for heat. He saw a mother pressing her baby to her chest, both shaking. He saw a crowd outside the empty mart, smashing glass, tearing shelves bare. In his last life, he had died in this chaos. This time, he would use it. He made his move. He packed small bags from the basin. Each bag had food, water, and warm socks. He dropped them quietly at the stairwell, then disappeared back inside. When the neighbors found them, they fought. But then slowly, order began. One man shouted to share. A woman gave her bread to a crying child. Jun-ho watched from his peephole. He wasn't helping out of kindness. He was testing them. In his last life, he learned one truth. When the world ends, people become monsters. But a few, just a few, become allies. That night, the knocking returned. This time, it wasn't one man. It was many. "Open up, Jun-ho. We know you have food. If you don't share, we'll break in." Voices rose, angry and desperate. Fists slammed the door. The walls shook. Jun-ho stepped back, breathing slowly. In his past life, this was how he died, neighbors turning into enemies. But this time he was ready. He reached into the basin and pulled out what he had prepared, a bag of rough gold lumps, enough to buy soldiers, enough to buy power, because food was only the start. The true game had not even begun. And as the door rattled under the fists of starving men, Jun-ho smiled coldly. He knew exactly how to turn this disaster into the start of his empire. The storm did not stop. By the third day, half the city was dark. People dragged broken furniture into the streets, burning it for heat. Smoke mixed with snow until the air turned gray. Inside his apartment, Jun-ho ate hot rice and kimchi stew. The copper basin kept giving him more, but he knew comfort wouldn't last. The city was breaking apart, and sooner or later, someone stronger would come knocking. That morning, he heard voices in the hallway, not the angry mob from before. Quieter. Careful, he pressed his ear to the door. "It has to be him," a man whispered. "No one else has power. No one else has food." "Then what do we do? If we move wrong, he'll shut us out." Jun-ho smiled faintly. These weren't raiders. They were desperate, but smart. People who might follow if given the chance. He slid a small package through the trash slot. Inside were 2 bottles of water and a packet of ramen. "Eat first," he said through the door. "Then come back tomorrow." Silence. Then muffled thanks. Footsteps faded away. It was a small move, but it was a win. He wasn't just surviving. He was planting seeds. That night, Jun-ho couldn't sleep. Not from fear, but from memory. In his past life. After the cold wave came famine. After famine came riots. After riots came the military, locking down entire districts, and he had died in that chaos, frozen and nameless. But this time he had gold. This time he had supplies. This time he had foresight. He opened his notebook and wrote 3 words: food, power, control. If he wanted to survive longer than anyone else, he needed more than stockpiles. He needed influence. He needed people who would obey him. By the 5th day, his neighbors had nothing left. Men with bloodshot eyes fought over, frozen scraps in the alley. Children cried until their voices broke. That was when Jun-ho stepped outside for the first time. He wore a heavy parka, thick gloves, and a mask to hide his face. On his back was a large duffel bag filled by the basin. Dozens of people turned to stare as he walked into the courtyard. Gasps echoed through the cold air. Food. Real food. He dropped the bag on the ground and unzipped it. Inside were bundles of bread, rice packets, and water. "Line up," he said firmly. "If you want this, there will be rules." Nobody moved at first. Then a child shuffled forward. Then another. Soon, a line formed. The strongest men in the crowd glared, but they didn't dare fight. Not with so many watching, not with Junho standing calm and unshaken. One by one, he handed out rations. Not enough to fill them, just enough to keep them alive. And with every hand that touched his, every whisper of thanks, his power grew. But not everyone was grateful. Later that night, as he carried the basin back inside, he caught a shadow moving near the stairwell. A man leaned against the wall, smoking despite the storm. A scar cut across his cheek. His eyes were sharp, hungry. "You're smart," the man said. "Too smart. But giving food for free? That's weakness. Out here, people only follow fear." Junho said nothing. He recognized this man from his past life. In that life, the scarred man had led a gang that terrorized the block, beating anyone who resisted. He had killed without hesitation. This time, Junho wasn't afraid. This time, he had already prepared. He gripped the basin handle tighter and stared coldly into the man's eyes. Because tomorrow he would decide, would he make this enemy kneel or erase him before the gang could rise? Snowstorms swallowed the city. The streets were silent, but danger was everywhere. Inside the building, whispers spread. People had seen the food. They had seen Junho. By morning, the neighbors gathered in the courtyard. Some begged, some glared, and in the back, the scarred man leaned against the wall, smoke curling from his lips. His name was Daniel Park, and everyone avoided his eyes. Daniel spoke loudly. "Why should one man control all the food? Share it, or we'll take it." Murmurs rose. Hungry eyes turned toward Junho, but Junho didn't flinch. He stepped forward, duffel bag in hand. He unzipped it slowly. Inside were neat packages of bread, water, and blankets. Gasps filled the air. "You want food?" Junho said. "Then line up. I give to those who follow rules. No fighting, no stealing. Break the rule once, and you get nothing." The crowd hesitated, but the cold bit deeper every second. One by one, they stepped into line. Daniel's eyes narrowed. He expected chaos, but Junho had turned it into order. The scarred man lit another cigarette and smirked. "This won't last. Fear always wins." Junho ignored him. He handed out just enough to keep the neighbors alive. Not plenty, just survival. And with every package, their dependence grew. By afternoon, the block was whispering his name with both awe and fear. Not a weak delivery boy. Not a factory dropout, but the man who could feed them. That night, Junho sat with his notebook open. He wrote 3 new words: control through hunger. He remembered the future clearly. In his last life, Daniel Park had built his gang by hoarding food and forcing people to kneel. But this time, Junho had flipped. The script: Daniel wouldn't rise, he would kneel or break. A sharp knock rattled his door. Not desperate this time, confident. "Open up," Daniel's voice growled. "We need to talk. Alone." Junho stared at the door, calm but ready. In his past life, this man had ruled him. Now, he had the chance to decide his fate. Should he turn Daniel into his first soldier, or crush him before the gang could even form? The handle twitched. The door creaked open an inch. Daniel stepped inside without asking. The room was warm, too warm compared to the hall. His sharp eyes scanned the stacks of boxes, the bags, the glow of the small heater. He smirked. "I knew it. You're sitting on a mountain." Junho didn't. Answer. He closed the door behind Daniel and locked it. Two men now stood in a fortress filled with food. Daniel flicked his cigarette into a cup and leaned forward. You have what everyone wants, but you can't protect it alone. When word spreads, the whole block will come for you. Cops, gangs, maybe even soldiers. But me? I can keep them in line. You feed me, I control them. That's the deal. It was the same speech Daniel had given in the past life. Back then, Jun-ho had been weak and desperate. He had agreed, and Daniel had used him until nothing was left. But not this time. Jun-ho walked to the copper basin and reached in. He pulled out a pistol, black, heavy, and very real-looking. Daniel's smirk vanished. You think I need you? Jun-ho said quietly, I already control them. You saw it yourself. They lined up for me. For the first time, Daniel hesitated. The fearless thug from the future blinked, caught off guard. Jun-ho placed a small bag on the table. Inside was bread, water, and a blanket. Take it, he said. Eat, sleep warm. But remember this, your life now depends on me, not the other way around. Daniel's fists clenched. His pride screamed to lash out. But hunger was louder. He grabbed the bag and shoved it under his arm. Before leaving, he paused at the door. His voice was low, almost a growl. You've made me bow today, but don't think this ends here. The door slammed. Jun-ho exhaled slowly, lowering the pistol. His first enemy had bent, but not broken. And outside, the storm raged harder, burying the city deeper in ice. The world was getting colder, but the real fire of war had only